All right, so organization is everything, and the bigger your project gets, the organization becomes that much more important. So the faster you can find what you need, it's just that much easier to get things done. So in this lesson, I'll show you some ways that you can rename, sort, filter, and quickly track down the assets you need. So here's how this works. So I'm starting back here in my project with a lot of assets in here. This is an older project. So I'm going to begin by opening up Media Library. So View and then Media Library. And let's go into Images because that's where the biggest mess is. Now, the one thing to consider is naming your images. Now, whatever your naming strategy is, that's it's very personal. It's up to you. However, there's some things you can do to make this a lot easier to find. So first off, fries. That tells me what I need to know about this one. However, I know that if I come down here, well, first off, I can see this is fries and it's being used 4 times. I just know that this is part of an icon series, so I'm going to say uses, and now I can sort by how many times the graphic has been used. So here I can quickly get in here and find the related graphics, and I just happen to know that these are related. Now this is fine, the naming convention, coffee, Sunday, and so on, but one naming strategy might be to use a common prefix so that these always appear alphabetically in order. So maybe I would come in here and I would call this icon dash, and I can just maybe select this real quick, Control C to copy, and then I can rename just by clicking in here once to select it and get that active selection field for my text, and then continue placing that for each of these graphics as a prefix. Using a common prefix really makes it easy to find those graphics. It also helps you identify those particular images if you're searching. So if you look up top, we have search images, and if I typed in icon, those 3 icons that I just renamed are now all grouped here together. I don't have to search for coffee by itself, fries, and so on. So I'm kind of creating categories here for each of these graphics, because the search is only going to search the file name, and the search will also find internal notes. What are internal notes? We'll look right over here next to the alt text, we have internal notes. A lot of folks don't take advantage of this. And here's a use case of where I think this is really helpful. I'm going to click name, and I'll sort by name again. So I have a lot of iStock images. I like iStock, had a subscription, and these are from the subscription, but this name doesn't tell me anything right here, right? I can see that it's a cyclist, but this name isn't really helpful from a course development perspective. So what I might consider doing is just selecting this, clicking once in there to select it, press Control C to copy it, and I'm going to paste that over here in the notes. So this time I'm using the notes really as sort of a content management or asset management, meaning if I rename this file, then there's really no way for me to know this came from iStock. So if I ever needed to go locate this, maybe I needed a different version of it, or I needed to account for, hey, I purchased this image, placing that name in the notes is a fantastic strategy. And then I could come in here and then, give this a name, cyclist on busy street or something, right? And that might really be helpful there. I could also look at using and moving these around by their scene or chapter name. So another idea would be, here's my iStock image. I'm going to click in here, Control C to copy it. I'm going to add that to my internal notes so I have a reference of what that original image was. But now notice when I select this though, down here in the bottom, and we'll talk about use case and how we can identify these images a little bit more in a future lesson. But right here, I can see that this is part of healthy habits. And so that's a chapter, a whole chapter on healthy habits, which is, if I come in my scene right here, let's just see if I jump back into story view, healthy habits. So there's a lot of different images here on each of the slide layers, right? So I can see those different images. So one thing I could also consider doing is just giving this a prefix of healthy habits. So that tells me that that's going to be potentially the slide or scene number, and then this is I don't know, veggies or something. Veggies, that's probably totally fine, right? It just tells me it's got some veggies. But that's another naming strategy for identifying the images to make them very easy to find. I like the common prefix. That's a really easy way to kind of group related images. You could also group by the scene name. So again, I'd maybe just grab healthy habits. And let's find one of these other images. If I select this image, right click and choose Show in Media Library. Now, a lot of times you may not do this when you're just getting started. So there's that image. So I'll say Let's copy this one, Control C, paste it in over there, and then I'll say healthy habits, just to give it another prefix here, habits, and then man running with dog. So now whenever I want to find all of the images that are on a current slide or scene, depending on how I name them, I can just use the search field right here, healthy habit, and then those two come up right there for me. You also have the option here, again, this is something I think a lot of folks overlook. If you look in the top right corner, we can search by project or by scene or current slide. I think most times we're just searching by the project. However, if you, depending on the size of your project and how many graphics you're working with, it might make more sense to narrow those search results right there for either scene or with slide. But I'll keep that set to entire project. All right, lastly, I'm going to come out of here. The other thing I'm searching for a lot of times is dimensions. So sometimes if things don't look right on the slide, maybe you have a really low resolution version of it. So I can see right here, these are quite large at 2048 by 1367. But if I come down here, I can start seeing that I have some really low res graphics. These are just icons, which might make more sense. However, sometimes that really helps finding, oh, this shouldn't be such a low res image if I'm displaying it in a large pop-up or something. And then the other thing I'm looking for is use count. So a lot of times you'll get a bunch of use count images that don't have any uses, and those might just be because you loaded up Media Library with some future assets. However, at the end of the project, before I turn over the project to clients or before I share a demo, unless these are going to be used later, I might come in here and just select those and delete those so that I only have images that are in use. That's really a personal preference, but it's kind of like having a bunch of extra slides in your slide master that aren't being used. Sometimes it just makes it easier to clean it up. So I could select those and then just come down here to the delete and remove those images from my media library. And then you also have the date modified. This can tell you a little bit about the image. Sometimes the image was edited 2 years ago, but you just inserted it. So it's going to show that insertion date rather than when it was officially edited. So sometimes this is a little bit more helpful than others, but you can at least see when the images were modified to give you an idea if it's helping you, possibly help you find what you're looking for. All right, yep, I get it. Labeling and organizing takes a bit of upfront time, but the payoff is always worth it, especially when you're in crunch time. But just taking that time, whether it's as you develop or maybe even little breaks every week or a couple days, just going through Media Library, cleaning it up a little bit, add some of those custom prefixes for your terms, or even documenting the images you get from stock photo sites. All right, next up, we're going to look at ways to insert and especially reuse those assets throughout your course.